Hello there. I'm now back in New Zealand, but today I have the chance to finish off my 2024 Bordeaux en-primeur tastings because I have here a little half bottle of an en-primeur sample of Lassegue. Chateau Lassegue, a 24-hectare estate in Saint-Émilion, in Saint-Hippolyte, which is about 4 kilometres sort of southeast of the town of Saint-Émilion itself. The vineyards here slope gently southwest and they're on limestone and clay soils. The estate here dates back to the 17th century. They have an absolutely beautiful old stone-built chateau here. And the vineyards have some great resources of old vines. Evidently, average vine age is somewhere between about 50 and 60 years old. Now, significantly, the estate was bought in 2003 by Jess Jackson and his wife Barbara Banke of Jackson Family Vintners from the United States, and they managed to persuade Pierre Seillan, a French winemaker who was making wines for them at the Verité estate in the Napa Valley, come with his son Nicolas to run the chateau here. And this is a challenge that Pierre has clearly enjoyed. And it should be noted that in 2022, the estate was promoted from a Saint-Émilion Grand Cru to Saint-Émilion Grand Cru Classé status. Now, my view from tasting previous vintages of Lassegue is that it's had quite a sort of a new world, rich, relatively warm, high alcohol, sort of powerful feel to its wines. But I'd actually say that maybe 2024 has marked a change for that. Now, one of the things that Pierre said was actually, given its location, the foot of a set of hills, they found that a lot of the year's bad weather actually passed them by. It either went along the river valley below them or went between the hills next to them. So he felt that they weren't as badly affected by the rain as some properties were. The other factor that I thought was very interesting was the fact there's an increased amount of Cabernet into the blend this year. Evidently they had a plot of younger Cabernet Franc that's now reached a stage of maturity where it's suitable to be used. And the Cabernet Franc sort of brings the alcohol back a bit, adds a bit more perfume, adds a bit more freshness to the style. So I think I perceived a change in style in Lassegue in 2024 that I thought was a really positive one. Wine production I don't have any notes on. I would presume is pretty straightforward for Bordeaux. Fermentation probably in stainless steel tanks at temperature control. I would imagine there would have been a high level of selection going on both in the vineyard and at the winery. One of the areas that Pierre Seillan concentrates on very heavily is the quality of the oak used to age these wines. The wine ages for about a year, entirely in 225 litre French oak barriques. But Pierre is very passionate about selecting the oak that he uses very specially. The barrels here are labelled by forest, not necessarily by cooper. He'll select the cooper he works with, but he will go to the forests and he'll select individual trees according to their location. He believes those trees on the top of hills tend to have more flavour than those faster growing trees in damper positions lower down a hill. And what he was saying is that in that situation, wood will have a deeper colour because it has more of the vanillin perfumes that he's looking for in the oak. It was fascinating talking to Pierre. He clearly puts an awful lot of attention onto making sure that he has exactly the barrels he wants to make his wine. In fact, I believe they have their own stave mill in order to process the wood to make the barrels. So let's have a look at the wine, shall we? First thing I'd say is that it's got a really lovely, deep, dark, black purple colour. The wine is, the technical sheet says it has 13.2% alcohol and it's clinging to the glass quite readily. It's not really forming tears, but you can see it's fairly viscous and clinging there. Let's see what we make of the aromas, shall we? The aromas are starting to give some dark fruits and quite perfumed, almost damson, sort of purple fruit sort of notes. There's spicy raspberry, loganberry and lively mulberry notes all in there. So those red fruits but with the darker sort of black plum notes, giving an almost jammy compote of that dark, rich fruit. And I should say, this is an en-primeur sample. When I first opened it, there was quite a sort of a dirty, reduced sort of nose, and I'm glad to say that's all cleared away and you can just see the beautiful, clean, juicy, ripe fruit there. So let's taste. On the front of the palate, there's a juicy richness. There's juicy black cherries, there's raspberries, there's loganberries. There are those higher tone notes, the sort of the mulberry notes. And in with that, there's a beautifully integrated cedary sweet spice note as well. Perhaps there are also sort of smooth chocolatey notes. There are fine tannins, but they're supple, they're not astringent, they're not gripping, they're not drying my mouth out. This is quite an energetic, powerful, juicy wine. However, what's lovely about it is all that is balanced by a beautiful freshness that's giving it good length. There is certainly some structure. It's almost sort of starting to give sort of notes of licorice and more tightly bound sort of graphite notes on the mid palate. But the freshness is giving length and the perfumes are starting to open up again on the finish. And that's possible because the alcohol's not particularly high. I mean, 13.2% is higher than some of the 24s, but it's not sort of up at that 14.5%, which I have seen from previous vintages of Lassègue. So that's giving the wine an elegance, a freshness and a beauty that I've not seen before in Lassègue. I was talking about the fact that there was more Cabernet Franc being used here than in previous vintages. The blend on this wine is 49% of Cabernet Franc with 45% of Merlot and the balance, the remaining 6% being Cabernet Sauvignon. So the Cabernet Franc and the Cabernet Sauvignon giving that good freshness, but the Merlot still giving some generosity, some richness and some ripeness. There really is a lovely long flavour. I'm getting some slight notes of sort of bitter licorice, of coffee, that sort of slightly tighter, more gripping sort of note on the finish. I've yet to know what the price is for Lassègue, but this is a wine that for me stands out as the estate having made a step forward with its 2024 vintage, and it's a step I do hope we'll see again in the future. So thank you so much for watching. I do hope you've enjoyed the video. I hope you found it of interest. If you have, it would be fantastic if you pressed the like button. I'd really appreciate that. If you have any comments, please pop them in the comments box below. I'd love to hear what you think about the wines I'm looking at, the tastings I'm doing, or anything else that relates to that. If you have any friends you think might be interested in Chateau Lassègue 2024, do please feel free to pass the video on to them. I'd really appreciate that endorsement coming from you. So that you can find out how much it costs once it's released, I will leave a link in the notes below to the winesearcher webpage so you can find out its price, its availability, and any of the background notes like that blend information, for instance, should all be there on that page. So thank you so much for joining me, and I do hope you'll make some time and come and watch another tasting video with me sometime in the very near future. Till then, bye for now.